Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Gabe Randall, and today is an exciting day. Today is September 17th, which means it is Constitution Day. That means that our Constitution has been around for 236 years, I believe, which is very impressive. The average Constitution lasts around 17 years. So the fact that our founders had put together this document with so much effort and so much thought behind it to make it last over 12 times longer than the average constitution. That is very impressive. So I wanted to go over some different things. So here we go. Let me double check everything's working. Okay. So this is on wallbuilders.com. They're a great resource. David Barton and Tim Barton, they know everything there is to know. So the I'll just read through some of this. The Convention of 1787 was the capstone in a chain of events that led to the creation of the Constitution. America's first attempt at a national governing document was in 1777 with the Article of Confederation. It went into effect in 1781, but its deficiencies were quickly apparent. So in 1786, the Annapolis Convention called for a body to assemble to address its many weaknesses. This is what's known as the Constitutional Convention that gathered in Philadelphia in 1787. Um, so with the debates, there's a bunch of people that each are bringing certain values and certain beliefs to the scene, and so the debates on the Constitution didn't go smoothly at first, and then Benjamin Franklin recommended that they begin with daily prayers to help the process along. Many of these guys, you'll hear from all sorts of different people that these guys were not Christians, did not have any faith of any sort. But when you actually look at the facts, look at the documents, you will see that many of them were actually very religious and they had these beliefs that came from the Bible. Um, and so this daily prayer was something that many of them actually believed in and would help. Um, and as we can see, it worked because it was signed on September 17th in 1787, a day we now know as Constitution Day today. And many delegates expressed their belief that writing the Constitution would not have been possible without divine aid. Um, Again, they're pointing right back to God. And they personally witnessed and openly acknowledged Alexander Hamilton himself said, "For my own part, I sincerely esteem it a system which, without the finger of God, would never could have been suggested and agreed upon by such diversity of interests." He's saying that there's so many people, but they eventually agreed on this. James Madison agreed. He said, "It is impossible for is impossible for the man of pious reflection not to perceive it in the finger of Almighty hand, which has been so frequently and signally extended to our relief in the critical stages of the revolution." So he's also pointing it to the Almighty hand, and that's good for now because I wanted to go on and cover what the Constitution actually looks like. So I wasn't going to cover the full thing. I wanted to cover the amendments to it, the first 10 amendments, which we now know as our Bill of Rights. So the First Amendment, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or of the right of people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for redress of grievances. So, uh, many churches during COVID, the government told them that they could not meet, and that is not legal according to the First Amendment of the Constitution. They are peaceable meetings. They aren't they aren't violent in any sort of way, and so at the same time, there are uh, uh, so they are violating our free And so they were violating our free exercise of religion, and they were also abridging our freedom of speech because they weren't letting people come to and so the government was uh, pretty much like very, and so the government was denying us the freedom of to exercise our religion. Um, and in the same way, they're also restricting our freedom of speech, not letting us gather, which is also another part in the First Amendment. The freedom to assemble. Um, then going on to the Second Amendment, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, and the right of people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Um, Many of us hear about the Second Amendment, and with that, there's a lot of fear that goes into it. Uh, but it should be, according to the Constitution, it should be perfectly legal to bear arms um, in a manner. Oh, my bad. But according to the Constitution, it should be perfectly legal to keep and bear arms for self-protection. And this is something that I believe has been violated by many states, but many states are coming back and realizing, oh, we've messed up. And in those states, there is actually less crime than in the more liberal states that are trying to restrict this amendment. Um, the Third Amendment, no soldier shall in time of peace be quartered in any house without the consent of the owner, nor in time of war, but in a manner prescribed to be prescribed by law. That just means you don't have to keep a random soldier in your house. This was very inconvenient for them when they had it was in the 1770s, I believe. There were soldiers that were British soldiers that were being quartered in American homes, uh, and that's not what you want if you as an American are trying to fight back. You don't want the soldier in your house, so they included that into the Constitution. The Fourth Amendment, the right of people to be secure in their persons, house, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures. So I wanted to go over that real quick. That is one of the more important things because many of us do not realize that if we are pulled over, they can't be like the officer can't be like pop open your trunk for me without a warrant. They need to have a warrant to search your property. In the same way, if you're at your house, this goes on to say, uh, shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue, but upon probable cause. So they have to have probable cause, and they have to have that warrant, uh, which is supported by oath or affirmation. Um, of the things that need to be searched. So even if they have a warrant, there are certain elements on that warrant that they have already designated to search. So if they come onto your property and say we have a warrant, but the warrant is just for searching your car or something, then they have no right to be in your house without your permission. Um, so then going on to the Fifth Amendment, no person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on a presentment or indicated or indictment of a grand jury, except in cases of arising in the land or naval forces or in the militia, um, when in actual service in time of war or public danger, nor shall any person be subject to the same offense to be twice put in jeopardy of life or limb, um, nor shall be compelled in any criminal case to witness against himself. Most of us know this part of the Fifth Amendment. Uh, they say, "I plead the Fifth," which means that they are going to be silent. They don't want to incriminate themselves. Uh, and so again, if you get into a situation, you can plead the Fifth, and and just keep silent. Um, because there are many times where people just keep talking on without legal advice, and so they incriminate themselves. It has happened before. Um, and then right at the end it says, "Nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation." Um, so they can't just take your stuff, is what it says in the Constitution. Um, the Sixth Amendment is just, to sum it up, it's just the right to a speedy public trial. Um, the Seventh Amendment, that makes it so that if the case exceeds the worth of $20, then you have the right to have a jury, at least from how I understand it. And which in many cases is very helpful, though the jury does not have as much power now as it was meant to have. The Eighth Amendment, excessive bail shall not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel or unusual punishments inflicted. Again, that's very important when it comes to legal cases. Uh, the Ninth Amendment, the enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage uh, others retain others retained by the people. My bad. This one just means that you have other rights, and the the Constitution is not restricting those rights. So if you uh, so in other words, you have many other freedoms, but just because it's not listed in the Constitution does not mean that it is that you do not have that right. The Tenth Amendment. This one I had to look up. Um, the Tenth Amendment pretty much means that any powers that are not specifically given to the federal government nor withheld from the states are reserved to those respective states. So if something happens in that state and the federal government doesn't have anything about it, I think that state would have jurisdiction over that, is what I believe it means. Um, well, maybe let me scroll through Google a little bit. Um, so let's see. The federal government violated the 10th Amendment when Congress required state and local officials to perform background checks on people buying guns. Um, so I think that normally that would be a state thing, whereas though technically, according to the Second Amendment, you shouldn't have to do that at all. Um, but yeah, I believe that brings the power to the states. So thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. Free feel to dive in and learn more about like what the Constitution does and the story behind it. So thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.